Market action now, but how will these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have our own cues to talk about as well. We have our research team joining in with just that, the trade setup, the stocks that are likely to be in the news, and the action from the F&O space as well. Hey guys, a very good morning and happy Friday to all of you. Ekta, let me come across to you first up. What are the market cues you're watching out for?
Thanks for that. Well, yes, the markets did close lower for the third straight session yesterday. We had the Sensex and the Nifty, which ended at nearly 1 month lows yesterday. Now, the FIIs have net sold for the sixth consecutive session. So FIIs net sold a lesser amount, but nonetheless, they sold around 300 crores plus yesterday. DIIs net bought around 1729 odd crores. So that is something that we need to probably watch for in terms of a trend and how that probably weighs in terms of the markets. Now, for the US markets, big tech earnings were in focus. Like you mentioned, Amazon gained post numbers, Apple lost around 2%, Airbnb, Dropbox, all of these companies came out with numbers overnight. Now, the US jobs data is due today, so that's going to be the big cue to watch out for. Estimates are 200,000 in July. Smallest rise since December 2020 is what the street is anticipating. Asia is currently mixed. US bond yields have pressured equities, so that is another piece of data to watch out for post the Fitch downgrade of the US markets. Brent crude oil is set for the sixth weekly gain, so that becomes a cue incrementally to watch out for our markets, considering that we are net exporters of oil. Now watch for buying at lower levels because we did see a recovery for the past two trading sessions from those lows. Stock specific action continues. Follow on selling in the Nifty Bank, which underperformed yesterday, and resilience in the broader markets, pharmaceutical stocks, considering that a lot of the pharmaceutical stocks will be releasing numbers, so that continues to be in focus. A lot of numbers today. State Bank of India, M&M would be top of mind along with Britannia, and we do have a couple of numbers tomorrow as well, such as Bank of Baroda, so the street will probably brace itself for a couple of these big bank numbers.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Ekta, for all those cues. Let's talk about some stocks that are on our radar today. Surbi has that list. Hey, Surbi.
Hey Sonal, so a lot of earnings on my radar. The first one is Eicher Motors. Strong earnings. It was a top-down beat. The margins are up nearly 110 basis points on a year-on-year basis. Came in at 25.6%. Bharti Airtel, the revenues were up 4%. The India ARPU touches 200 rupees. Lupin, the revenue was up 23%, EBITDA margins at 14.1% and profits at 247 crores. MGL, it was a big margin beat. Sequentially, the revenue was down nearly 5%, but the margins have come in at 33.9% versus an estimate of nearly 28%. Cummins, the revenues were up 31%, margins at 15.4% versus nearly 13% same time last year. Radico Khaitan, the revenues were up 26% and the EBITDA was up nearly 29%. Deepak Nitrite, it was a weak set. The weakness was led by the phenolics division. The revenues was down 14% and margins have come in at 12% versus 17% same time last year.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. So those are some stocks that will be on our radar today. Let's talk about all the cues from the F&O space now. Manglam joins us. Hey, Manglam.
Good morning. So yesterday was a weekday, no two ways about that. However, we did see a recovery from the lows on the Nifty. It managed to close just under that 19,400 mark. The mid-caps were outperforming, so that's a bit of a positive. However, if you just take a look at the cash market, the FI is selling for 6 days in a row. The only positive here is that selling hasn't exacerbated. It's still around 200 to 300 odd crores, while the DII buying is there. However, what did exacerbate was the selling in index futures by the FIIs. 3,400 crores worth selling out there. And in that, a large part of that was short addition. 29,000 short contracts added for 7,600 long contracts which were unwound. As a result of which, the FII long exposure, which at the start of the series was 49%, has now gradually and suddenly gone down to 40% itself. In fact, at the start of the series, we were talking about how FII net long exposure is close to 33,000 contracts. Now that has turned into a net short exposure of 40,620 contracts. So that's telling you that there has been a fair amount of bearish positions being added on the index itself. Yesterday, of course, was also weekly options expiry, but the options that are active for next week, we have the 19,500 call, which saw a fair amount of writing. 19,400 call as well saw a decent amount of writing for a premium of 120 odd rupees, telling you levels upwards of 19,500 to 19,600 could face stiff resistance. On the other side, 19,400 put writers were active, hoping that yesterday's low of around 19,300 does sustain itself. But the texture of the market basically is that recoveries are likely to get sold into until Nifty reclaims key levels. What are those key levels? On the way up, we'll be watching out for the 20-day exponential moving average, which is the 19,544 mark. And on the lower level, 19,200 to 150 to 200 is an important support zone itself. For the Nifty Bank, going above the 50-day exponential moving average, which we broke yesterday, will be important to watch out for as well. And usually we don't only speak about FNOQs, but today we'll also watch out for how the US markets pan out, largely because of the big upsurge that we saw in Amazon after markets and a downtick that we saw on Apple as well, because basis that there will be positions taken on our markets itself.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us and prepping us up for this trading day ahead. With that, we'll slip into a break. SBI is slated to report its earnings later